At this point, I've tested more monitors, mice, keyboards, mousepads, and audio gear that I can count, and let me tell you something. Spending more money doesn't automatically get you better gear. I know that probably sounds obvious to the most of you, but looking at some of the setups out there, it just needs to be said. But even if you're aware of diminishing returns, actually finding the gear that hits this exact sweet spot between price and performance, that's the hard part. So the curve looks a bit like this. At the low end, we got the e-waste zone. That's the cheap garbage that might look like a good deal at first, but is actually a complete ripoff. Spending just a bit more money can get you much better stuff. So you want to avoid buying from here if possible. And here at the long flat top, we got the gamer tax zone. And that's where you're paying extra dollars for tiny differences that humans can't even perceive. And for stuff like RGB lights, aggressive marketing, and gimmicks that nobody really needs. But you also find some genuinely cool and innovative products here, like this mouse for instance that has an adjustable sensor position, or this 540Hz OLED monitor to name a few examples. I love this stuff. But I want to make it very clear, it's terrible value for money. That is the stuff you buy when you have a lot of budget to burn and just want the newest and most insane gear on the market. So let me tell you where you find the stuff right here. The good stuff. Not too cheap, not too expensive, but just right. This is the Goldilocks zone, if you will. Let's start with mice. I can't be the only one who thinks that prices for gaming mice have been getting a bit out of hand lately. I mean, for some reason it's now the norm to charge like $150 plus for a simple wireless gaming mouse. But you absolutely don't need to spend that much. The sweet spot really is in that $50 to $80 price range. That gets you a top tier wireless gaming mouse that's lightweight, has a high quality sensor, low latency and good build quality. And there are a lot of good mice in this price range, but these three are my current favorites. I've been using them a lot, even back to back with much more expensive mice, and honestly, they don't feel any cheaper. And I am just as good or bad with them as with any other mouse that's almost like 3 times the price. So if you're looking for maximum value for money, search in the $50 to $80 price range. I have my favorite mice from the price bracket linked down below. Okay, mousepads. I know it's tempting to go for the bottom of the barrel stuff here to save some money. I mean, it's just a piece of fabric and some rubber, right? So why not put most of the budget into the mouse? Like maybe go with a $10 mousepad so you can spend like $100 on the mouse. But if I had $110 for a mouse and mousepad combo, I'd spend $60 on a mouse like the 80K Met R for instance, and put the remaining $50 towards a really nice mousepad. And this right here is the mousepad I'd go for, the Hyperion by Pulsar and Lethal Gaming Gear in soft. It has now been rebranded to the Pulsar ES Hyperion Pro actually, but it's still the same pad with a slightly different base. I've been using this exact copy, which still has the old logo on it, for a long time now, and it holds up pretty well, and it's by far my favorite mousepad. But yeah, it's not the most affordable pad, coming in at $50. I think it's well worth it, but there are also great alternatives for less money. And the one I'd recommend is the Paraglide, also by Pulsar. I guess you could almost call this a budget Hyperion. It doesn't have the same memory foam-like softness like the Hyperion. It definitely has a firmer base than the soft Hyperion, but the surface feels pretty similar, and it also has a nice balance between speed and control. You also get stitched edges and a base that properly sticks to the table. Compare that to an even more affordable pad like the Heavy B by X-Ray pad, and yeah, it's a big difference. At roughly $25, it's fantastic value for money. So yeah, $25 to $50 is the sweet spot for mousepads in my experience. This gets you a decently sized, high quality pad that won't hold back your aim. Now, I feel something that's kinda underrated for gaming is arm sleeves. I mean, yeah, wearing an arm sleeve for gaming at your desk kinda makes you look like a dork. Can't argue with that. But yeah, it works. For glass pads, these obviously are a must, but even for cloth pads, I'm a big fan of arm sleeves. I was a bit skeptical at first, but I gotta say this tiny piece of fabric helped a lot with my consistency, And also, the mousepad stays clean for longer, which is a nice bonus. So it might even increase the lifespan of your mousepad. The sleeve that I'm using is from Wallhack, and it currently goes for like $10 on their website, which I think is pretty fair considering how much it helped with my aim. Moving on to keyboards, this is another peripheral where you can spend absurd amounts of money, but you can also find some incredible keyboards for surprisingly cheap. For gaming, I'd always go with an analog keyboard. Hall effect, TMR, optical, inductive, all fine. The key really is that it supports adjustable actuation points and rapid trigger. That's something I really don't want to miss anymore, especially for competitive FPS games. And yeah, some of the most popular analog keyboards are pretty expensive, but there are some really good keyboards that can do the same stuff, but cost way less. The Goldilocks zone is a bit wider here though, I'd say between $50 to $150 US. On the lower end of the price range, we got the MCHO's Ace 60 Pro, which I've been recommending for a while now, and it really does everything you need. It supports stuff like rapid trigger and SOCD, the web interface is decent, and the latency is just as low as on a high-end keyboard. It's a bit lacking though when it comes to build quality and sound. You really can't complain at this price point, but if you want to hit the sweet spot for quality and typing sound too, you gotta spend between $100 to $150. That already gets you keyboards with a metal case, or a case partially made for metal, or even some exotic materials like wood. And also a much nicer typing sound. And these are my favorite keyboards in this price range. Typing sound and build quality almost are as good as it gets with these keyboards. Really doesn't get much better than this without spending like esoteric amounts of money. Past this point, you're mostly paying for quality of life stuff, like better software and better reliability. These more affordable keyboards tend to have more bugs and firmware weirdnesses than a keyboard from Wooting, for instance. To be fair though, expensive doesn't always mean bug-free. I've tested many expensive keyboards that were pretty bad in that regard, but with these more affordable keyboards, you're almost guaranteed some software and firmware weirdness. The A68 Turbo, for example, recently had a bug where a rapid trigger would kick in way too late on some key presses. It's fixed now, and stuff like that really isn't the end of the world, you know. But those are the fine details that these more affordable keyboards are often missing. Still, you can get a lot of keyboard in the $50 to $150 price range. Now, the monitor is arguably the centerpiece of every setup, and I can totally understand if you want to splurge here and get like a massive screen, a monitor with a super high refresh rate, or a multi-monitor setup. But really, a nice 27-inch 1440p monitor with a refresh rate of at least 144 Hz is all you need. And that's where you find the best value for money. And when we're talking value for money, there's no way past these two monitors from KTC and AMZ Fast. Both can be had around $150 US, and both are extremely similar. If you want to know all the details, I recommend you watch the comparison video I made about these, but these are essentially just two really solid 200Hz IPS monitors that work great for gaming and everything else. Monitors like this would have been a lot more expensive just a few years ago, but good 27-inch IPS monitors came way down in price, so that's the sweet spot currently. 27-inch 1440p IPS monitors for around $150. Spending more than that on a standard LCD monitor really doesn't make a lot of sense in today's market. The next upgrade from here that actually makes sense from a value for money POV are 240Hz OLED monitors. It's a bit of a price jump, I know, but you're getting much better image quality, infinite contrast, and perfect response times in return. And the monitors that are the best value here are the entry-level QD-OLEDs. Either monitors like these that are using the 200 nits version of that QD-OLED panel, or the monitors that are using the 250 nits version, which typically are a bit more expensive. The slightly brighter monitors usually can be had north of $400, while the monitors with the 200 nits panel usually can be had below the $400 mark. So that's where you want to look. Now, those classic gaming headsets are probably the first thing that comes to your mind when thinking gaming and audio. And yeah, if RGB galore and cat ear headsets are your thing, I mean, yeah, go ahead. But if you're looking for value for money, you should 100% consider earphones, aka IEMs. There's a good reason that so many people have been switching to IEMs for gaming. These are just incredibly hard to beat when it comes to value for money. And there are a lot of affordable IEMs that are crazy good, but this one sticks out because it combines everything you need in just one product. IEMs, mic, and a USB deck. It's all built into the cable, which makes this a super clean all-in-one solution. It even has an integrated 8-band EQ, which is pretty nice. I don't want to get into too much detail here as I made an entire video about this already, but it's insane value for money, coming in at just over 50 bucks. You'd be hard-pressed finding something that both sounds better and is more convenient at this price point. And there's also a nice upgrade path with these, as you can just swap the IEMs if you ever feel the need to. I'm currently using the cable with some IEMs that are good but more expensive, and it's just such a nice setup. Again, really not necessary to swap out the IEMs, but it's just nice having the option. So yeah, I hope you found this useful. I have everything linked down below. Thanks for watching. Bis zum nächsten Video.